Welcome to Archilingua, English for Architects.
Hello and welcome. I'm Alec.
And I'm Zia. It's great to have you with us for our 5th episode.
That's right, episode 5. We've been receiving some wonderful comments and feedback on our previous episodes, so a huge thank you to everyone who has reached out. We really appreciate it, and it helps us shape our future episodes.
We certainly do. Today, we're diving into a topic that was requested by several listeners, and it's fundamental to working in any architectural studio: the specific language we use. We're calling this one the Architecture Lingo, 20 words and phrases architects use.
Exactly. We'll be looking at the common, sometimes confusing jargon that you'll hear in design meetings, studio critiques, and everyday conversations. Words that sound abstract but refer to very concrete ideas.
So, Alec, why is it so important to get comfortable with this lingo?
Well, every profession has its own shorthand, its own specialized vocabulary. It allows for quick, precise communication between experts. In architecture, it's not about being exclusive, it's about efficiency and conveying complex ideas concisely.
Right. When you're in a fast-paced environment, you don't always have time to explain a concept from the very beginning. Using the right term can save a lot of time and avoid misunderstandings.
Precisely. And for non-native English speakers working in an international context, understanding this lingo is key to integrating in the team and participating fully in the design process. It's a real confidence booster.
To illustrate this, we thought we'd simulate a quick design review. Imagine we're looking over some concept drawings for a new mixed-use building.
Okay, I've got the plans here. So what's the core concept on this scheme? I see the main idea, but I want to hear you articulate it.
The core concept is essentially a solid public base with a lighter, transparent volume for the offices above. Let's pin this up for discussion with the team later. I think it has potential.
Mm-hmm. I like the direction. Looking at the main facade, though, it feels a bit flat.
I agree. What if we start to push and pull the massing of the upper volume? We could introduce a significant cantilever over the main entrance to create a more dynamic form.
That could work, but then we need to resolve this corner where the cantilever meets the main curtain wall. The current detail with the thick mullion feels clumsy.
Right. We could refine the fenestration pattern to be more rhythmic. Maybe a brise soleil could wrap around that corner, which would obscure the heavy structure behind it.
That's a nice idea. It would also give the ground floor plaza more breathing room, a better sense of enclosure. We can use the ground floor line as a clear reference line for the whole composition.
Exactly. Looking at the section drawing here, the solid mass of the walls and floors in the core seems very heavy. To bring more light into the deep floor plates, we could introduce a carousel level near the top.
Exactly, and that speaks to the client's brief about activating the streetscape. They were very clear they don't want a monolithic corporate plaza. This approach feels more porous, more inviting to the public. That will add to the cost, of course. We might have to value engineer some of the interior finishes to afford that.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about materiality for that public base. If it's all polished stone or concrete, it might still feel cold. What if we explored a warmer palette? Maybe some textured board-formed concrete or even a terracotta rain screen to give it more tactile quality.
That's a fantastic idea. A terracotta screen could tie into the brickwork of the older buildings down the street, but in a contemporary way. It would add a layer of craft and detail that the client would appreciate. It also visually separates the public realm from the private offices above. Moreover, the overall scheme is strong because it really speaks to the context of the neighboring buildings, especially with that low parapet line matching the building next door.
Okay, great. Let's do a quick design charrette with the junior architects this afternoon to develop these ideas further.
Sounds like a plan. I'll redline these drawings with our notes so they have a clear starting point.
Okay, so that was a very quick and condensed version of a studio conversation, but you can hear how those specific words and phrases allow for a rapid exchange of ideas.
Exactly. Now, let's break down some of the key phrases we used. We'll take turns explaining them. Zaya, why don't you start?
Let's start with, let's pin this up for discussion. This is quite literal. It means to put drawings or sketches up on a wall, usually a pin board, so that a group can see them, review them, and discuss them together. Then I suggested we push and pull the massing. This refers to adjusting the building's overall shape and form, pushing parts in and pulling parts out to create depth, shadow, and a more interesting three-dimensional volume.
And I pointed out that we need to resolve this corner. This means we need to figure out the design details of a specific area. Resolving something means finding a functional and aesthetically pleasing solution for how different materials or forms meet.
Next up was it needs more breathing room. This is a way of saying a space or an element needs more negative space around it. It feels too crowded or compressed, and giving it breathing room makes it feel more comfortable and intentional.
Then I mentioned that we might have to value engineer some elements. This is the process of reviewing a design to reduce costs while maintaining its quality and function. It's about finding more affordable alternatives or more efficient ways to build something.
After that, I said we don't need to go back to the drawing board. This is a common English idiom, meaning to start over from the beginning because the current idea isn't working at all.
And I suggested that the design speaks to the context. This means the building responds well to its surroundings, the neighboring buildings, the street, the history of the area. It's in dialogue with its environment.
Then I propose we do a quick design charrette. A charrette is an intense collaborative design session. It involves a group of people working together over a short period to explore and develop design ideas quickly.
And finally, I said I would redline these drawings. This means to mark up a drawing with corrections or comments traditionally done with a red pen. These red lines are instructions for the draftsperson or 3D modeler to make changes.
Great. Now let's quickly go over some of the architectural terms we used. These are more about specific building components or drawing conventions. Alec, would you like to start?
Of course. The first one was facade. A facade is simply any exterior face of a building, especially the principal front that looks onto a street or open space.
Next, cantilever. A cantilever is a structural element, like a beam or a slab, that is anchored at only one end. A balcony is a very common example of a cantilever.
Then, curtain wall. This is an important one. A curtain wall is a non-structural outer covering of a building. It's often made of glass and aluminum. It's just a curtain hanging on the building's main frame, keeping the weather out.
And a mullion is a part of that wall system. It's the vertical bar that divides the units of a window, screen, or curtain wall. There are also horizontal dividers, which are called transoms.
So, fenestration was the next term. This is a collective word for the arrangement, design, and proportioning of all windows and doors on a building's facade. It's about the overall composition of openings.
Then, brise-soleil. This is a French term, literally meaning sunbreaker. It's a type of sun-shading structure like fins or louvers that is placed on the exterior of a building to block sunlight and reduce heat gain.
A rain screen is a type of exterior cladding system. It includes an outer layer to keep rain out and an inner layer with an air gap between them. This is different from a simple solid wall, as it's designed to manage moisture and improve insulation.
Next, streetscape. This term describes the overall character and appearance of a street. It includes not just the buildings, but also the sidewalks, trees, lighting, and street furniture. An architect might say, we need to improve the streetscape to make it more pedestrian-friendly.
A clerestory is a high section of wall that contains windows above eye level. Its purpose is to admit light, fresh air, or both. You often find them in churches or large public spaces.
And finally, parapet. This is a low protective wall along the edge of a roof, bridge, or balcony. It's the part of the wall that extends above the roof level.
So there you have it, a few common phrases and common terms that make up the daily lingo of an architecture studio.
Of course, there are many more, but we hope this gives you a good foundation and helps you feel more confident in your next design meeting. Don't be afraid to ask for clarifications if you hear a term you don't understand.
That's the best advice. That brings us to the end of our 5th episode. You can find a full transcript of this episode, including the definitions of all the terms, in the description below.
If you found this useful, please subscribe to Archilingua wherever you get your podcasts. And we'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment. It really helps us out.
Join us next time when we'll be discussing another crucial communication skill, the art of giving and receiving design feedback.
Until then, thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.